And a great golf good morning to you. Welcome to the show. The Back Nine Boys Golf Show is brought to you by Mizuno Golf. Reach beyond by Sea Palms Resort. Become a member at seapalms.com. By Club Car, the leader in sport, utility, and personal vehicles. By RSM, proud sponsor of the RSM Classic, giving back to our community. And by Bridgestone Golf. Get fit for your Tour B ball today. On the show, we're going to talk with Colton Dean of the GSGA about their adaptive golf program. In fact, their first one is going on today. Then we'll talk with Jeff Babenbow, former Golf Week writer, about covering the tour, including the recent PGA and Senior PGA championships, plus his take on the LIV Tour versus the PGA Tour. And then next we'll talk with Georgia Southern's golf coach, Carter Collins. And Coach will talk about his team this past season and what's coming up for next season. But first up is Colton Dean, who works with the adaptive golf program with the GSGA. Colton, good morning and welcome to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
Good morning. I appreciate you having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you with us, and I am really a big fan of the adaptive golf program. I've done some interviews with some of the folks up in Chicago. Tell us what's going on with the GSGA this weekend with your adaptive golf program.
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. Yeah, adaptive golf has really been growing across the nation, and we've tried to help that effort here in Georgia. This weekend, we have our Georgia Adaptive Open. We have players from all over the country, 14 different states, all different types of disabilities here at Bobby Jones Golf Course in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm actually out on the course right now doing some setups. So if you hear some lawnmowers and that kind of thing, that's the reason why. But yeah, this is this weekend, today and tomorrow. You can follow all the action on gsga.org and all of our social media channels as well.
Well, you said there were 14 different states. How many players? And obviously, this is the start of a big future for the adaptive program with the GSGA.
Absolutely, yeah. We have 30 players, and again, yeah, they're from all over the country. We actually have a player originally from Ukraine. He's the number one-arm golfer in the U.S. right now.
Wow.
Alex Foria is his name. So there's just some incredible individuals out here as we look to continue to build our program.
You know, I know a lot of guys that have trouble swinging with two arms, but seeing these players like the one you just mentioned with one arm, I mean, it is incredible how they're able to play the game and get through the ball and get distance along with that.
Absolutely. I mean, there's several guys out here that are amputees, whether it be leg amputees or arm amputees, that will consistently shoot around even par, sometimes under par. So it's a legit competition going on out here, and we're looking forward to crowning a champion tomorrow afternoon.
All right. How did these people qualify for the program for this weekend, or was it just a registration?
Yeah, just through registration. There is a association called the United States Adaptive Golf Alliance that keeps a ranking of U.S. players. So some of our qualifications had to do with the rankings in their sport class, which is what type of disability they are. And that's kind of how we selected the field. So that was our process for that.
All right. Talk about the U.S. Adaptive Program coming up in Pinehurst in July. How many players are going to be there, and how do they qualify for that tournament?
Absolutely, yeah. So the USGA has really been doing a lot of research and efforts to learn about adaptive golf over the past several years, and it's culminated this year in their first U.S. Adaptive Open. So the USGA is going to conduct that at Pinehurst on course number 6, July 18 through 20. They have 96 players from all over the country, all over the globe. I know there's some players coming in from Japan and Canada and Europe. So it's going to be a great field of 96 players. That qualification was based on their handicap index. So whatever their nationally recognized handicap index was, the top 7, 5 men and 2 women in each disability category got to go to Pinehurst this year.
I mean, it's just a fantastic program, and it's really been growing over the year. And you've got to give kudos to not only the adaptive golf program around the country, but also that you guys have recognized that this is a real program you need to be involved in. It was probably very easy to say, let's do this, but it is a program that is very worth doing.
Absolutely. And when this all started for the GSGA several years ago, as the Georgia State Golf Association, we feel that it's our duty to serve the game of golf. And with there's several million golfers that have disabilities, and we have to serve those individuals in Georgia. We have 8 clinic sites right now. The closest ones down there to you on the coast is going to be Savannah or Valdosta. So I would encourage anybody listening that may have, an interest in the program, whether it's volunteering or participating, to reach out to us at gsga.org, and we can get you connected to one of those clinic sites and keep this thing growing.
And for the golfers that are out there that are in the adaptive golf program, how would they find out more about what you're doing here with the GSGA?
Yeah, anyone who's interested can reach out to me directly, obviously, through my email, cdean, CDEAN, at gsga.org. Follow us on our socials. Just reach out to us here at the GSGA, and we'd be happy to talk to you and get you connected.
Well, I think what you're doing is a fabulous program. It is much needed, and I'm sure it gives the people that are participating, the 30 this week, the 96 coming up in Pinehurst, it just gives them an opportunity to do what everybody else is doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Colton, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it, and thanks for all the GSGA is doing for the adaptive golf program, and you have a great day, and watch out for those lawnmowers.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right, it's a pleasure. We were talking with Colton Dean, who's working with the adaptive golf program at the GSGA. Just a great program. Next up is going to be former Golf Week writer Jeff Babinbo. We're going to talk about a variety of subjects. But speaking of subjects, are you looking for new clubs? Well, you might want to try the new Mizuno irons, 922, 923, and the 925s that will help improve your game. These new Mizuno irons will help you reach beyond. Add the new Mizuno driver, fairway metals, hybrids, and you're on your way to game improvement. And then try the new models of Mizuno putters, blade, mallet. Take a look at them and check out everything on MizunoGolf.com. Mizuno Golf, reach beyond. And welcome back. I'm Rich Stiles. Our next guest worked for Golf Week for over 19 years and now writes for the PGA Tour. He is Jeff Babinbeau. And good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Morning, Rich. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You just recently traveled to cover both the PGA and the Senior PGA Championship. Tell us a little bit about and what kind of stood out for you.
Well, yeah, it was a nice trip. I mean, I think we had a crazy Sunday at the PGA Championship at Southern Hills.
Oh, yeah.
Great venue. Justin Thomas coming from behind and everybody wanting to Monday morning quarterback whether or not Mito Pereira should have hit driver on the last hole, which I think he should have. And he'd done it pretty well for 71 holes all week. So, certainly we got a great finish there. Then last week with the Kitchenaid Pga Seniors, you got a new star out there on the Champions Tour, Stephen Alker, a journeyman for all his career. Never did a whole lot, played, I think, the Nationwide Tour under 5 different names through the years. But he's really found his game at 50. He's fit. He's ready to go. He's playing great. And he's really become the player to watch out there this year. So, he came back on Sunday. Bernhard Langer faltered. And he's kind of the hot news story out there on the Champions Tour.
Yeah, and seeing Langer falter is something that really doesn't happen a lot.
Pretty rare. I mean, he played so well on the front 9, and I'm sure, there's a mini Tiger effect on that tour when Langer puts his name up there. He knows how to close, and he's very comfortable in the biggest heat. But he played terrible on the back 9. He looked really shaky on some iron shots, and afterward, he was really candid afterward. I give him a lot of credit. He came in, talked about it. He says maybe age is getting to be a little bit of a factor, fatigue on the back 9. He's going to be 65 pretty soon. And I think, it should make us all appreciate what we've been watching with him. He's really incredible to be doing what he's doing and contending at nearly 65 when, a lot of those guys don't contend past their mid-50s.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like the PGA Tour. Once you get a little bit past 40, I mean, it's kind of like, can I hang on until I get into the 50 range to play on the Senior Tour? And, it's just one of those things. But speaking of one of those things, the Shank that Justin Thomas had on the back 9 at Southern Hills had to be something that shocked everybody. And as you covering it, what did you think when that happened?
I mean, it's one of those things you look back and what won him the golf tournament, not necessarily finish, which, got him to -5, but it probably was that bogey he made, right? I mean, he hits a cold shank, he hits a tree, he's in a bunker, he's 100-something yards out on a par 3 and makes 4. And those are the things that win golf tournaments for you. There's so many things, so many dominoes fell for him on Sunday. It was amazing. And he makes a 65-footer on the 11th hole. Just little things. Mito Pereira helps him out with a double bogey on the last to not even make the playoff. Leaves a putt hanging on the 17th green. Just so many things. It shows you how hard it is to win. And but that bogey he made was all world, and those are the little things that happen. And it's funny, he went to the next hole, the 7th hole, the long 4, and Bones paced off his yardage, and lo and behold, the club he was about to hand him was the same 5-iron he just shanked. So,
oh gee,
and he flagged it, and he had a great shot onto the green, and so it just shows you, the mental toughness you need out there. They say the hardest shot in golf is the first one after a shank, and he pulled it off quite well.
Yeah, and he was pretty emotional about it. I mean, he never really thought that he had a chance being 7 strokes back going into Sunday, but everybody, kind of dropped back, and, he kind of stayed close and ended up obviously winning in a playoff, but he was pretty emotional about it.
Yeah, and I mean, 67 on Sunday proved to be the low round of the day. I think Tommy Fleetwood shot it as well. So it wasn't like he went crazy low, but he just hung around. Bones gave him a good pep talk on Saturday night. He shot 74, was really hanging his head, and Bones was trying to make him see the bigger picture that, hey, you're right in this thing. And the thing he had on Sunday was the experience.
Yeah.
He had already won 14 times. He had won a major. A lot of these guys were looking for their first win ever, never mind their first major.
Yeah.
It was such a huge edge, I mean, I think more and more you hear these guys who win realize that they don't have to be perfect out there. They can make mistakes on a final round. As long as they hang in there and make some timely, maybe some par saves, keep some momentum, and make a putt or two at the end. And you just got to be around. That's the whole key to it.
Yeah, just stay in it. Don't shoot yourself out of the tournament. So, Jeff, I got to ask you this. I mean, to be talking about it, it's in the news. It's not necessarily top, but this LIV Tour and the PGA Tour, the battle that they're obviously getting ready to jump into the ring. What are your thoughts about it?
Well, I mean, certainly it's interesting, right? I mean, it's competition usually rise, right? So, I think in certain ways, the PGA Tour has answered. They realize they need to take care of their big guns. Looking at the field, we don't know if Phil's going to be that last guy that's added to that field
Right.
week in London. But, I mean, if that was a tour field, you'd say it's a pretty weak field. I mean, there's not a lot in there to excite you. Certainly, Dustin Johnson being in there raises some eyebrows. And there are some other, established tour guys. And so it's like this big drama we're watching unfold, right? What's the U.S. Open going to do? Are they going to not let these guys play the U.S. Open? I mean, these guys have qualified to play the U.S. Open. So, and for the most part, these big governing bodies have kind of stood alongside the PGA Tour, and the PGA Tour has taken a pretty hard stand. So, it's like this drama we're watching unfold. Certainly it's more golf, which you think is good for the fan. It's got to create a little interest. They're going to play for an awful lot of money. But, in the end, they don't have the horses they need to really make something of that tour yet. But it's early days. So it's certainly interesting to watch unfold.
Were you surprised with the announcement of DJ and the big $125 million contract? And here's another point. The PGA Tour has drawn a line in the sand. How do you think they should respond? Immediately, or wait a little bit to see what else happens at that tournament, to see like maybe if Phil gets in? Or do you think they need to respond like right now, draw the line, you got to make a choice?
Yeah, I think if you're the PGA Tour, you have to protect your product, and you draw a line now. You have this event will be played opposite the Canadian Open, which is, has a great sponsor in RBC.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you have, I don't know how many tour members are playing over there. Let's say they have upwards of 10. I don't know what the percentage is, but that's competing against your product. And the one that really gets their attention is when they come to the States. So when this tour plays in Portland and other places in the state, I mean, that's a direct shot across the bow at the PGA Tour. So I think you have to make a hard stand. You have to make it immediate. These players have decided that they're going to play for a lot of money. Dustin Johnson, as opposed to playing for your legacy in the game and winning majors and all that. And am I surprised? I don't know if I'd use the word surprised. I mean, it's an awful lot of money, right?
Yeah.
He's made $75 million and is on the course in his PGA Tour career. And here's somebody waiting to write a check for more than that just to come on board with your league. So, I mean, it's a lot of money. It's going to tempt guys, and some guys are going to jump at the opportunity.
Yeah, and I totally agree that I think the PGA Tour needs to respond like this week, if not sooner, that, you've already made your choice, and this is what's going to happen. Pretty big contracts, as you said. Dustin Johnson, $125 million. Some others, Hudson Swafford from here, offered $10 million. I mean, they're throwing big bucks to these guys to play, and, they kind of may look at it as, okay, I got the money. Maybe it's not in the bank, but I've been told that it's coming. and I could retire sooner.
Yeah, I mean these guys have. It's so complex, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
yeah.
so many different tentacles to it. I mean, Kevin Na is going to play. He's 38 years old. He's got a couple little kids. You're offering, if Hudson Swafford's getting $10 million, maybe Kevin Na at 33 in the world is getting, let's say he gets double that or
Right.
that. Now and you're going to play 8 weeks a year, and you hope to play elsewhere. But I mean, you're going to have a lot more time with your family. You're guaranteed money. You're not fighting to keep a PGA Tour card like a Graham McDowell might at this point in his career. You have a guaranteed place to play. You have guaranteed money to play for. It's really complex, and the thing is, it's not going to go away anytime soon because the money's not going away.
Right.
So as long as these big bucks are being waived, there's going to be temptation to jump. And the first time Kevin Na wins a tournament and makes $3.6 million, all these guys that beat him week to week out there on the PGA Tour are certainly going to look at that and say, man, that's an awful lot of money, and I beat that guy all the time. So
yeah, exactly.
We'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, and RBC was quick to make a statement when they heard that Dustin and Graham McDowell were going to play. They said, well, we wish them well, and they turned their back on RBC for the tournament in Canada. I just think that was a pretty strong move by RBC.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to do that. Dustin Johnson's one of their marquee guys,
Oh, yeah.
right? And part of the understanding when he's wearing the RBC on his sleeves that he's going to be playing their championship in Canada and showing up to play the Hilton Head. And, so it's a trade-off, right? I mean, these guys are trading in deals. Phil Mickelson's turned in deals. He's making $50 million a year off the course, and he's
Right.
willing to trade in those deals. There must be an awful lot of money on the end of his pot of gold here for the Saudi tour, because they're turning their backs on a lot of money that they've had coming in on these deals, and they're just hopefully trading it for bigger bucks that's going to be there for a while.
Yeah, I heard somebody make a joke that they also offered Patrick Reed $100 million not to show up.
Yeah, possibly.
Were you surprised at the list of the players? Besides the big announcement about DJ, were you surprised at anything that came out after they released the list?
Honestly, I was probably more surprised at a Hudson Swafford than a DJ, Dustin Johnson. A lot of these guys that we expected to jump are in the latter parts of their careers, an Ian Poulter, a Sergio,
Right.
Lee Westwood. Rory at one point called it a pre-Champions Tour. It's almost the case. So Hudson Swafford is still a guy young enough to play for legacy out there on the PGA Tour, and good enough game to compete for the majors. So it's really going to be interesting to see if these guys get knocked out of the majors, because I mean that's what that's what's going to define you as a golfer. No one's going to walk around 20, 30, 50 years from now and talk about how much money you earned. They're going to say, oh, Dustin Johnson, that guy won, 24 times and he won a major.
Right.
Certainly you think DJ would have more majors in him potentially, but he looks like he's willing to take that risk and forego that. So that's how these guys will end up being defined.
Well, it looks like, just based on the way the lines are being drawn, money being thrown, decisions being made, you got to make a choice that this may end up in a court battle.
Yeah, I mean, I think both sides are ready for that. I mean, like we said, I mean, if you're Phil Mickelson, you've earned your way, quote unquote, into the U.S. Open next week. So if they tell you couldn't play it, what are the grounds?
Right.
So it is interesting. Yeah, I think it's definitely bound for, courtrooms, and these guys, quote unquote, they're independent contractors. Well, not really. I mean, they are and they aren't. They're members of a tour. They need to play 15 times. I mean, that's not real independent. And at the end of the year, you get a nice little bonus check into your into the best retirement fund in sports. So I'm an independent contractor. I don't have anyone tell me at the end of the year they've tucked 250 grand into my 401k. So, I always take the independent contractor thing. Yeah, you can play where you want, kind of, but you're only independent contractors with an asterisk on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is that we really don't know what the bottom line or the small print is in all these contracts that they've signed with the PGA Tour. We don't know some of those things. So I think obviously it's going to get into a court. How long that would last, it's up to anybody's guess on that. But it sure won't be a matter of who's going to throw more money at it, because they're both going to throw as much as they need to protect what they have.
Yeah, you have to, right? You have to dig in the sand and go. And I mean, if you're at the PGA Tour and you have a rival tour that wants to play in the U.S., you better fight it, and they will. And the other, the other side is going to have as much money as they ever need to throw at it. So it's just right. It's an interesting battle for us to sit on the sideline and see how it goes. But I mean, certainly now that LIV tour doesn't have the ponies it needs to really fly and get worldwide attention as some great alternate tour. So that's still a long ways off.
Yeah, Dustin's wife will probably get more publicity going over there than he will.
Yeah, no doubt.
One last question. What do you think Phil's going to do? I mean, do you think he'll show up next week? I know it's a guess, but what are your thoughts? Think he'll show up? Do you think he'll play in the LIV?
I don't know. I don't know. I think one of the interesting things with Phil is no one has spotted him, right? It's not like he's spotted he used to hit balls at Callaway, for instance. I know that deal's on hold, but
right.
Even in local courses around there, you'd see Phil out playing and practicing. There's other tour guys out there. Nobody's seen Phil. So I don't know. He's eligible to play the U.S. Open as well. I mean, if you're that competitively rusty, do you show up and try to play a U.S. Open? And wherever he goes, he drops this huge, anchor on somebody's doorstep. Do you do that to the USGA? Maybe part of me says he might enjoy that. But
yeah.
I don't know. So who knows when we're going to see Phil? I think he has a lot of things to sort out. I think in the end he's really going to regret the way he's done this, and it's sad really, because at 51 and as the PGA champion, he could have such a better legacy right now.
Yeah, you got it. Jeff, thank you for taking the time to be with us. I appreciate your time, and hope to see you soon on another fam trip.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Get up. Thanks.
All right, appreciate it. Jeff Babinbow, always a pleasure to talk with him, and he and I have been on a couple of fam trips around the country. He's just a great guy to play golf with and a great guy to travel with. Next guest is Georgia Southern's golf coach, Carter Collins. But first, who has the best deep dish pizza? Well, to me, there's only one choice, and it's CJ's Italian Restaurant across from Parker's on Mallory Street right here on the island. CJ's makes their deep dish, thin crust pizza every day from scratch. Also, their homemade salad dressings, meatballs, and their famous hoagies. They've also got great appetizers, pasta dishes, beer, wine. It's just a great place to go. Open every day at 4:30. Check out their full menu at cjsitalianrestaurant.com. Graham and Ada do a great job, and so does their staff. cjsitalianrestaurant.com.
Webb Simpson, PGA Tour. You're listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
And I'm Rich Stiles. Welcome back. Carter Collins is the golf coach at Georgia Southern, has been for the last 8 seasons, been with the team for 15, and he is with us for a few minutes. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing great. How are y'all?
Doing wonderful. All right, tell us about the Georgia Southern season just completed. How was it?
Oh, boy, it was a roller coaster season, as most of them are at times. So, college golf is split up into two seasons. We play a group of tournaments in the fall and a group of tournaments in the spring, and then we play our championships in the spring as well. Fall counts just as much as spring, and we played 4 events. Didn't play our best in a few of them, and then we went to ETSU's event, which was our last event of the fall, and played very well in a tough field, finished 4th, gave us some good momentum in the spring. Mason Williams came back from injury in the spring, and a few of our other guys had some tremendous off seasons working hard. They had a great spring. They won 4 times, had a couple other close calls for wins, finished runner-up at conference, and then made regionals as an at-large, which is always a badge of honor for the boys. Obviously, we wanted to win conference and get the automatic qualifier, but they had a good enough season overall to make regionals as an at-large, and then punched our ticket to nationals at regionals and had a great week at nationals. So, you always believe in your guys and always believe in your team, but it was definitely a big roller coaster to get to where we did in Arizona last week from where we were in the fall.
Yeah, I mean, you just have a great bunch of kids, obviously playing golf, working hard. Let's go back a little bit. Talk to me a little about what happened as far as team dynamics when you were affected by the COVID situation in 2020.
COVID did have a big impact on our roster. NCAA allowed everybody that was affected by COVID to have an extra year of eligibility. So that helped Jake Maples and Brett Barron stay an extra year, which kind of delayed our team turnover a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it was great. We loved having Jake and Brett. They were incredible players and captains and the whole 9 yards. So then when we started this year, there was a little bit, Jake and Brett had been in the lineup so long. There was a little bit of shock to the system for some of the guys to be in the lineup so quick because we needed them to be.
Right.
Because 2 big holes were there. So COVID definitely contributed to some of that, or the COVID policies and protocols contributed to that. Luckily, in general, COVID was a much better thing this past fall and spring than it was protocol-wise in the year before on the guys. It got pretty hard there for a little bit, testing and worrying and trying to figure out if you're going to be able to travel or not, and then if all the things that come from that. But the roster turnover or lack thereof was definitely something that we had to handle and deal with, and we'll have to for another year moving forward.
Yeah. And how does the team look for your upcoming season?
It'll look very similar to how they did this year. All 10 guys are returning, and we're adding 2 great players, 2 great kids. Parker Claxton from Claxton, Georgia, son of the local legend down there at St. Simon's, Paul Claxton.
You betcha.
Yes, sir. And Hayden Carner, originally from Birmingham, Alabama. He's a 2-time first-team All-American junior college player from Central Alabama. We're very excited to add his experience, and both are great kids, great students, and so the team will look very similar to how it did this year, just plus a couple new faces.
All right, so you've got 10, you're adding 2. How do you make the traveling team? Do you guys do competitions, and based on those competitions, you pick what you think are going to be the best 5?
It's a great question. So we start the year through strictly competition and how to make the lineup. I think that's the best way because it gives the guys a big opportunity to work harder in the summer to find some stuff, and we give everybody an opportunity in the fall to make the lineup based on scores and qualifying. which is just inter-squad competition at the best golf courses we can find near Statesboro. We try and set it up like a tournament, and, the lowest scores go. Then as you move throughout the season, you start getting data on how the guys are playing in tournaments, who's qualifying well, who's playing tournaments well. You still give opportunities to the guys to find the way in the lineup based on score, but you also have a few spots in there for coaches to make decisions on based on not only how they're playing in qualifying, but how they're playing on the road, how this golf course will fit them. Most coaches do it the exact same way, but we definitely try to sprinkle in a little more competition than most programs to give the guys an equal opportunity to play.
So when you're selecting based on scores and you're selecting maybe based on the golf course, how does it fit this guy or this guy? What are some other characteristics, Coach, that you're looking for as far as making sure that they'll have good chemistry on the team?
Another good question. They spend a lot of time with each other in the van, going to the tournaments. They spend a lot of time with each other at dinners. They spend a lot of time with each other in hotel rooms. Chemistry is a very important part of what we do, because if you've got 5 guys that don't get along, or even just one guy that really doesn't want to get along with his teammates, it can bring everything down. So I think that starts in the recruiting process and getting guys that want to be a part of a team and that want to be coachable and that want to get through tough situations in a very mature way, and have some resiliency. And I think, if we get lucky in recruiting and get some guys like that, I think some of that takes care of itself, and you don't have to worry about that so much picking for tournaments. But it's definitely a concern and definitely something that we keep an eye on throughout the tournament. And if a guy's a great teammate and he pushes his teammates, no matter how he's playing, that definitely will benefit him moving forward if he's a 50-50 coach's pick.
Right. Gotcha. Well, we had a chance this week. I had some friends in town from North Carolina, and we had a chance to play out at Frederica. And Ian Glackton and Parker Claxton showed up to round out our foursome, so to speak. Very, very nice kids with some great talent.
Yes, sir. Ian is just finished his freshman campaign with us this year. He's from Metter, Georgia. Went to Metter High School, and Ian's a absolutely fantastic young man, hardworking, manners through the roof. Great talent, great player, multi-time state champion. And then Parker will be a freshman for us this fall. And as I said, son of the legend Paul Claxton. And but Parker's doing great, making his own name. And him and Ian are very close friends. They're funny when they get around each other. Good chemistry between those two, and I'm excited to see what they can do together.
Well, Ian wanted me to ask you, because I saw him again yesterday at Seaside. Ian wanted me to ask you, who's the best lefty on the team?
Far and away, Ian Glanton.
Because he is the only one, right?
He is currently the only lefty we have. He's something else.
He is.
He shows up to work every day with a great attitude and works his tail off.
Yeah, I was impressed with Parker and Ian, both of them so polite, so nice. I mean, every question you asked, both of them just, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, they were just a delight to play with, and they had never met any of us, although I had played in a pro-am with Parker's dad up at the Rex Hospital Open several years ago, and was just impressed by his demeanor and the way that he carried himself.
Yes, sir. This had nothing to do with the recruiting process or me wanting Parker to come play at Georgia Southern. But I do have a history with Parker's dad. I was 15, 16. I was still from Claxton, but I never played any courses outside the local area. The Metter, Claxton. We go to Savannah every now and then, but never played any quote unquote, really nice resort courses. And I didn't know what those are all about. So Mr. Paul treated me like a nephew, I guess. And he would take me and go play these places and, Seaside and Secession. And we would play, and my jaw was on the floor and I couldn't believe how nice these places were. And we'd go play, and he did that for me for quite a few years. And it helped me progress as a player because it helped me get adapted to some bigger courses and that, college events were played on. And I owe a lot to him, and very thankful that I met Mr. Paul many years ago. He's been very great to me, and I'm glad I get to coach his son now for 4 years. It's going to be pretty special.
Yeah, because you'll probably be seeing more of Paul just trying to watch his son, who played, as I said, yesterday. They were just a delight. Coach, we've got to take a quick break, but we're going to be back with Coach Carter Collins from Georgia Southern right after this on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
Steve Melnick. I used to play on the PGA Tour, spent 26 years in the broadcast end of it, and now I look forward to being on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
And welcome back. I'm Rich Stiles. We're on the phone with Coach Carter Collins from Georgia Southern. And, Coach, one of the things that I kind of asked Parker and Ian when we played together the other day was, how good of a golfer are you? And they both said, he's got game.
They're kiss and tell.
Yeah, but you weren't around. I mean, they were saying, hey, coach can play. He beats us, maybe not on a regular basis, but, they said you got game.
Well, I appreciate them saying that. They must be looking for an extra sleeve of balls in the fall or something.
That's funny.
I don't play much anymore. There was a time when I played a good bit, and you know how, strange this game can be, and you stop playing and as much and just not as sharp as anything. But I do love to compete. I still miss that part of it tremendously. Fighting for win, head to head or a tournament or something with 5 or 6 holes to go.
Yeah.
You can't beat that. But I do still enjoy that just as much as I ever have, but just don't have as much time, or I don't dedicate as much time to play and practice as I used to.
All right. One of the questions that now comes up more often than it used to is, how do you, as the golf coach for Georgia Southern, work with some of the coaches that these kids in high school have already gotten? Does that become an issue, or is that something that really helps you as far as know where they are in their game at that time when they come and start playing for you?
Well, that's another great question. It definitely helps. I'm not a swing instructor, never have tried to be. I don't pretend to be. I trust the professionals, and how it looks most of the time is they have a swing instructor they've had during their junior career, and I encourage them, if they're happy with them and they're making great progress and the swing instructor is doing their job, communicating and supporting, then I want them to keep that person as the lead instructor for their golf swing. And then on the back end, I can communicate with the swing instructor if needed and find out what's going on. How can I help? What are some things I need to be looking out for? And we can kind of work together, but definitely not a friction area by any means.
Okay.
I see it as a positive. I want them to keep their swing instructor as long as they can, or as long as they're happy with them. And then I support them on the back end.
So what if they're not happy with them? What if, you see some things that, even though you're not an instructor or trying to be, but you are their coach, and you may see some things that maybe this guy that was teaching him doesn't see. Do you recommend maybe they look at something else or look at somebody else, or do you kind of step in at that point? I know that's probably 2 or 3 questions in one, but.
No, I got you. I definitely think there's a conversation that happens organically that comes up, and I feel fine offering advice on it, but I can't make decisions on it for them. There's so many great instructors out there, but as you know, there's instructors that are right for you, and the biggest piece of that, in my opinion, is the one that can relate to the player the best, communicate
Right.
with the player the best,
Right.
and let them know exactly what they need to work on so that they don't need to come back every week. And sometimes there aren't good fits. I agree. And, we kind of sit down and go over it, and we kind of put all the options on the table and see if we can find one that's a good communication fit. And typically there's one out there. I mean, these guys all know all the great swing coaches, especially in the Southeast. And,
Right.
so it's not hard for them to find one, but finding one that's a great fit is the hardest part. And when they do find that person, I encourage them to keep them as long as they can.
Well, all these golfers, a lot of them, and a lot of the successful ones have teams. I mean, they got a mental coach, they got a strength coach, they got
Yes, sir.
a chemistry coach, a swing coach, putting coach. I mean, that's a lot of people on a team that you kind of have to blend into a little circle to kind of keep these kids growing and improving their game.
Yes, sir. I agree. And I think for me, this is where being dumb is a positive. I have a hard time with being great at any of those things you just named.
Right.
I'm here to help support the player from an academic standpoint, making sure they have everything they need. Definitely from a tournament standpoint, learning how to play tournament golf at a better rate, and how to get more out of your practice, because your time is a little dwindled in college because you got tests and meetings and everything. But in general, if they come in with those coaches, whether it be mental or swing or whatever, I want them to keep them. And then I try and tie everybody together so that we're all on the same page, pushing in the same direction. And I think that's a very important part of it.
Yeah, that's a big challenge for you, Coach, because you've got 12 kids on the team who could possibly have 12 different swing coaches. So communication, most importantly, chemistry, really plays into that, so you can keep them moving forward and you have your best team that you can have.
I agree, but I feel like if you care, all of that's easy.
Yeah.
And if you care about the person and not the player, I think all of that takes care of itself. And if you start thinking, how can this player benefit me, or how can this player benefit the program?
Right.
I think that's when it gets tough to tie all that stuff together, because your heart's not in it. But I truly care about these guys first, and what they accomplish on the golf course is just secondary. And I feel like, if you care about them, all that takes care of itself.
Well, I love your heart. I love your passion. I love the way you talk about your kids and the way that you get behind them. I just think it's great. And you're always one of the best interviews that we have, because you're just upfront and honest, and I love it. So, Coach, thanks for being with us.
I appreciate the time, Rich, always, and appreciate the great questions, and happy to come back whenever you need me.
Well, I'll do it, and I owe you a visit. I told you the last time that I would come up and visit, and I didn't do it. So I am gonna do it this year.
We're ready when you are. We'd love to show you around.
All right, I'd love to be there. Thanks. Coach Carter Collins with Georgia Southern, one of the good guys out there that's trying to help these kids get better. And thank you for being with us on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show. Heard every Saturday and Sunday right here from 8 to 9 on ESPN Coastal.
To the Back Nine Boys Golf Show with Rich Stiles. Go to back9boys.com for all things golf whenever you want it. We'll be back next week with an all-new Back Nine Boys.